The fuck are you doing, dude?
Hello and welcome to a brand new Cornfed review, and today we are reviewing the highly anticipated Gladiator 2.
Strength among us! I don't fight for power. I fight the free road for men like them.
Your name will be forgotten!
To restore order, I must have power.
Everything is forgotten in time. Empires fall, so do emperors.
This is war! Real war!
The odds are against you.
The odds are always against me.
Ready to round!
And really quick, if you guys would give me a quick second to just flex really quick, I went to the IMAX viewing, and let me show you a few things that I got, man. Of course, the Maximus Decimus Meridius infamous helmet right here. This shit is clean, bro. This shit is hard. I'm sorry. I tried to put this shit on. Let me do it for y'all. Let me do it for the one time. I'm gonna try my best to put this shit on. This shit is tight, bro. In both ways, cool and fucking really. Oh no, I'm gonna break it. I can't fit it on my head. My head's too big. This is as far as I can go. This is all I got, y'all. But this shit is tough though. This shit is gonna look clean in the setup, bro. This shit is hard, bro. Let me put my hat back on. But this is amazing. I got this at a Harkins theater, so if you want to go, be on the lookout for it. It was like $35, but it did come with obviously a free popcorn, large popcorn, and it came with this really cool popcorn tin right here, sleek, black and gold to the point. We have Maximus's original armor plate insignias right here. This shit is clean, bro. This is peak for $35. Shoot, I'll buy. Give me 10 more. Give me 15 of them right now. And I also got these two things. I also got these two things for free. Limited edition. I don't mean to flex too hard, but limited edition poster. Let me get it close for y'all. This shit is big, bro. This shit is so tough, bro. I'm obsessed, man. I'm so blessed. They gave me this shit for free as I was walking out of the theater. And y'all, I didn't ask for it. I don't really technically want it, but I got a fucking foam finger, bro. It's my foam finger. This shit is hard, bro. If you guys don't know, are familiar with the Gladiator story, if the gods will it to give them mercy, they go up or down. This shit is so fucking cool, man. I don't know what I'm gonna do with this. I never had a foam finger in my life, but I'm a proud owner of this shit. This shit is crazy, y'all. But let's get into the review. Man, y'all, my expectations for this movie were over the roof, man. I absolutely am obsessed with the first Gladiator movie. I believe it's peak cinema. It's one of my top 5 favorite movies of all time. I am challenged with thinking of anything wrong with that movie. Perfect character study of good versus evil, and the implications of what love can do to a man. Gladiator, the first one, is just amazing, and it's very, 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 very hard to top or follow that movie. And we are here now 20 plus years later. Gladiator 1 came out in 2000 or 2001. It's now 2024 if you didn't notice. So this is like a quarter of a century later, and we are seeing now, can Ridley Scott do it again? Was a sequel needed? Is this movie able to kind of stand on its own 2 legs and be its own story? Or is it just another legacy cash grab sequel? Before we get into it, let me do a little bit of a precursor things. I love the first Gladiator movie. I went to go see it twice. I wanted to get a really good opinion on this movie. I get weary when I have high expectations for a movie because I feel like nothing can ever meet those expectations. So I wanted to make sure my opinions were my opinions. I went to go see it Thursday night and Friday night, back to back. First time in IMAX, second time regular showing. I just really wanted to capture everything. I wanted to fully understand the story. To me, Gladiator 2 is a big deal, man. I love the Gladiator movie. I wanted to get a really good, strong, honest opinion for you guys. Again, Ridley Scott comes back to direct this movie. The original director of the first one comes back to direct the sequel. We have some new faces. We have Denzel Washington. We have Paul Mescal. We have Pedro Pascal. We have Joseph Quinn. We have a lot of new faces here. This is set 16 years after the original movie, and it follows Lucius Aurelius, who is Marcus Aurelius's grandson. This main character here is the son of the great Maximus Decimus Meridius, and we are following his journey of being a soldier, losing everything, and you're watching this new character, Maximus's son, Lucius, holy fuck, Lucius, the fall, descent of a character, everything is stripped away from him, and seeing him go through the trials of the Colosseum and gaining power once again. I'm going to give you guys my honest thoughts on this movie. I really wanted to like it. Again, my expectations were pretty high for this movie, and I watched it twice. The first initial watch of the movie, I didn't like it. To be honest, I watched it a second time. I enjoyed it a little bit more, but my main gripes for this movie were still there. We're still a little bit prevalent. And my main gripes for this movie, the best way I can describe it for all you Star Wars fans out there, if you guys ever you guys remember when Star Wars: The Force Awakens came out? The Force Awakens was a reboot, not a reboot, but a reignition of the Star Wars trilogy, right? The last Star Wars movie that came out was like in 2005. This movie came out in like 2014, I think. It was a long time in between Star Wars movies, and The Force Awakens was pretty much the same exact movie from the first movie, the New Hope. It was the same exact movie, just different characters, but it was the same thing. There was a big Death Star, everything was just bigger, better, badder, but it was the same movie play by play, and they played it extremely safe for The Force Awakens. And unfortunately, Gladiator 2, I found myself feeling the same way. I hate to say it, but Gladiator 2 is almost a play-by-play of the first movie. It sucks to even say that, but it's the same movie, man. But the thing is Gladiator 1 did it so expertly. And this is not coming from like a diehard Gladiator fan. I love it, but I just saw it like 2 months ago. I haven't seen it growing up. I just watched it 2 months ago in anticipation for this movie. So I'm not like a biased, jaded fan. It's just, I couldn't help but notice it's the same movie. Like you have Maximus from the first one, and you have Lucius from this movie, and it's the same thing. Both of their wives die in the beginning of the movie. They have some sort of status in the military, the army, and they go down to the slave level, and they have to build themselves up and come to power and get revenge. It's the same exact movie. But this movie lacked so much heart and character that the first one really strided in. With Russell Crowe's character, let me do a side note here. I really hate to compare original to a sequel. I hate doing it. I really like to judge movies based off of their own movies. But if it's going to be the same exact movie, I have to. It's the same movie. It's like, but the difference is the first one had so much character, had so much heart. The first movie, trigger warning, but Russell Crowe's wife gets sexually assaulted, and his wife and his child get burned to death. Before that, you see him talk about how much he loves his family, how much he wants to take a step back from being like a war general and just take respite and enjoy time with his family and grow crops. That's all he cares about. But in this movie, you see Lucius' character, the main character, Paul Mescal, kiss his wife once, and they exchange rings, and then in the first scene, she gets shot in the heart with an arrow. And you're supposed to feel like, oh my God, we are on this path of revenge. I didn't feel it. I hate to say I didn't feel it. We're supposed to be on the side of Lucius' character and wanting to get that revenge, but I wasn't there with it. With the original movie, you're there. You feel him when you see Russell Crowe's character. He's trying to race to get to his home before the Romans do, to save them, and he's too late, and he watches them burn. He's holding their charred bodies as he's like crying hysterically. There's like snot coming out of his nose. It's a really impactful, heartful, like fucking heart-wrenching scene. But in this movie, you just see him getting shot. Lucius's wife gets shot in the chest, and he's like, in slow motion. I didn't feel it at all, and it was just like I wasn't on board for the whole revenge thing. And he wanted to get revenge against the general, who's played by Pedro Pascal. And Pedro Pascal is just, it's two opposing sides of the army. So it's not like Pedro Pascal like fucking ripped her head off or cut her throat. She killed his friend, and he was like, archers, kill her. So it wasn't like he did anything. Like, he's just playing his job as a fucking war general. And again, I get it. If someone kills your wife, you're out for blood. But the emotion, it wasn't there. It felt very forced. And again, I'm going to call back to the original one a lot, and you can give me hate for it, whatever. But Russell Crowe's character, he lost everything. He was a war general, and the person he was out to seek revenge for, Joaquin Phoenix's character, he took everything from him. He killed his father figure. He took over the Roman Empire. He killed his wife and his child, and he turned it around to make it look like he was some innocent good guy. And so he had a reason to root for Russell Crowe's character. You see Russell Crowe go from the fucking war general to the fucking bottom, a fucking slave fighting in these coliseums. And you see him kind of rise, and he gains the loyalty and the respect of his fellow gladiators and his prisoners and the supporting cast. You root for him. The supporting characters, the prisoners, the gladiators, they have their own personalities, their own character traits, and they grow a real camaraderie to where you're in it and you believe it. This movie did the fucking same exact thing. Lucius's character, he goes to the bottom, he loses everything, but he loses his wife, and he wasn't even like a war general. You don't feel the loss of everything, so you're not on board with him trying to grow and gain that revenge. It's just it felt very like play by play from the first one, but just a lot less feeling and a lot less emotion and drive from that character. And his enemy in this movie, it felt like it wasn't very like justified. He kind of halfway killed his wife, not really, he just gave an order. And it felt very lackluster. It felt like it just super missed the mark for me. But yeah, it's the same thing. He tries to rally up his prisoners, his fellow gladiators. It's the same thing. He's trying to be friendly with them. They break out of prison exactly like the first one. I'm telling you, it's a play by play of the first one. And I wanted to ignore that so bad, but it truly is. And I just imagine them all in the writer's room like, okay, what should we do? Okay, let's do the same thing, but the whole thing is about gladiators in the Colosseum. So hear me out on this. Let's make it bigger, badder, better. Are you guys writing this down? Sharks. Yup. Rhinos. Mm-hmm. Wild, angry baboons. Like, it's just, bro, like, the CGI was insane. Like, this is, like, 16th century Rome, bro. How do they transport a living shark into the Colosseum and fill it with water? It borderline felt like a Star Wars sci-fi movie. And the suspension of belief was just out of control for me. It really felt like, how can we make this as big as possible? Make this the motion picture of the summer. It felt like they were like riding giant battleships in the Colosseum with sharks. They lost me. Again, if this was a sequel and it was a drastically different story, I think I would have gave it more of a chance. But the fact that they pretty obviously ripped off the first movie, was a pretty big drawback for me. And I feel like they relied heavily on nostalgia. There was flashbacks of Russell Crowe, the Maximus character. It heavily drew back on Maximus's impact, which on one hand was cool, but it made it stray far away from it being its own story and its own movie. It felt like it was riding the coattails of the first Gladiator movie, and it's cool to do that in the beginning. They had this really cool sequence of like these oil paintings of a retelling of the original movie, which is all good. Respect, like, give us that homage, but they kind of fell back on the nostalgia factor and bringing back Maximus. I was waiting for a freaking Force Ghost Maximus to come back. I'm proud of you, son. I was waiting for it. I knew it was coming. It didn't, thank God. But I was like, okay, I know it's coming. Sometimes they didn't miss the mark on that. There was a really cool sequence of them visiting Maximus's grave and Lucius putting on Maximus's armor. And I'm all for respecting the legacy that Maximus gave on Rome and the gladiators. I'm all for that, but it was pretty consistent. And I love that when he put his armor on, it felt like a good moment. It was cool, but I feel like they relied pretty heavily on the first movie. Another thing, this movie felt like fucking Roman politics, the movie. 90% of this movie was fucking talking. The democracy shall be overthrown because of the new empire. Like, dude, come on, bro. It was like an hour, like a 45 minutes of that, a Colosseum action scene, 45 minutes of politics, like a Colosseum action scene, another 45 minutes of politics. And I was like fucking bored out of my mind especially the first time I watched it. There was a fucking lot of talking. It felt like everything that was wrong with the Phantom Menace. It was just a lot of talking and conspiracies. And I'm gonna be real with you. I enjoyed that a lot more my second time watching. I enjoyed it. I was into it. There's a whole subplot of Denzel Washington's character being a corrupt politician and him rising from, a lowly kind of guy to being the top emperor, and him deceiving people and lying and being very coercive. And I appreciated that a lot the second time around. But the first time, it was just a lot of talking. And again, that might be my high expectations talking. But man, it felt like a snooze fest. The action sequences were good. Again, a little bit over the top. The sharks, the rhinos, the CGI baboons. It felt like a lot at times, but they hit. They were cool. There's some fist fighting, and it wasn't nothing amazing. A positive. I feel like everybody acted their asses off. Paul Mescal's character. He did a great acting job, but again, his character felt very flat, felt very boring. I never was really rooting for him, or really felt like, oh my gosh, this guy, he's the man. His aura is off the chain. Like, it just felt very boring. Like, it's, when you for those of you who watched Tenet, that main character was boring. It just felt like that. The main character was very boring, very safe. Again, took a lot of the things from Russell Crowe's and Maximus's playbook. Just, you got a cool rallying of the crowd every once in a while. The monologues didn't hit. The character was boring, and the main character wasn't it. His aura was not there. His scenes were not. You could tell that they were trying to have charisma, but it never hit. Like, there's a scene in the boat right after his wife dies, and he's crying hysterically, and literally a second after, like not even missing a beat, he's crying, and he gets up and he's like, talks to the guy, haha, I see that the gods spared you, huh? Like, smiling. Like, the weight wasn't there, and the character felt boring to me. But with that being said, Paul Mescal killed it. I believed what he was doing. The character was boring. I don't believe it was his fault. I believe he did a good job. I think he was great for the role. Denzel Washington was amazing. I think he did really good. He shined in that. Pedro Pascal did really well. He didn't have a lot going on, but he did pretty well. I don't think I can handle another scene of him in a robe with no socks on, no shoes, just him looking like he's drinking wine. A little uncomfortable for me, but he did good. Yeah, solid acting performances all throughout. The music was there. The music hit. They drew back on a lot of the same sound, the same music from the first movie. They relied heavily on the first movie. The conclusion of this movie, again, I'm drawing back to the first one. It was such an artistic, theatrical fight scene between Maximus and Joaquin Phoenix's character. They hated each other, but it was beautifully shot. You could tell that they were both jaded, both like hurt and flawed characters, trying their best to be loved by. There's just an underlying theme of like love. Joaquin Phoenix's character so badly wanted love and acceptance, and Maximus's character had that, and he lost it all. And they were both trying to fight. And it was beautifully shot, and it was just so like fucking. It was like a dance. But in this movie, freaking Lucius's character, he was all out for blood for Pedro Pascal, and then he forgave him, and then he hated his mom. I hate my mom. She sucks. I never got why he hated his mom. His mom protected him. When Lucius's character, the main character's, he was a kid. She told him, "Get away from me. I'm trying to protect you." She told him to run away to protect him, and now he hates his mom. I don't have a mom, but if he was still around, I bet he'd hate her. It just felt like he was a spoiled kid. He hates his mom, and then he forgave her, and then now he hates Denzel Washington's character, and now he wants to kill him. It just felt like, okay, who do you hate, bro? Like, do you like find a direction and stick with it? He hated somebody, and he was on to the next. He hated somebody, on to the next. Like, I love that in the first one, he just hated one person, out for blood, and he wanted to get that done. This one, he's like, I'm angry. Give me someone to kill. Like, it just felt like very. I just wasn't in it. And I don't like to. Like, I don't like to compare. I really don't. But they make you. They force you to, because the ending, even the end, didn't give this movie its own ending. Even they did it to where he's like, "Talk to me, Dad," and they show the last scene of the first Gladiator movie was so beautiful. It was him putting his hands through these flowers, like telling you that he's finally happy, and he finally gets to be home with his family. And they draw back to that. Like, that has nothing to do with this main character other than it's his dad. But how about we have a scene where he's happy to go back to his wife? But they didn't touch that. They just talked about, Dad, talk to me. And they did the same music, the same ending scene of the first movie. Like, bro, can y'all give it this movie its own ending, like its own wraparound? Do you have to call back to this movie so often? Like, it just felt like, I'm like, dude, they never went away from that. And it's just like the Gladiator 1 and 2 had the same ending. It's just, there's the same movie, but Gladiator 2 was a lot shittier than the first one. Gladiator 1's fucking amazing. This movie was a direct copy, play-by-play of it. And I'm very disappointed. I'm very let down. Second watch through, I enjoyed Denzel's character, his rise and his corruption. I enjoyed that a lot more. I did find myself liking Paul Mescal's character a lot more. Lucius, I put a lot less pressure on him. I enjoyed liking him a little bit more. Maybe I was forcing myself. Maybe I was coping, but I enjoyed it a little bit more. And I didn't feel the 3-hour runtime as much the second time. The first time I really fucking felt it. A lot of talking, but maybe, again, it's just me coping. Maybe I'm forcing myself to find any good in this movie. But yeah, severely disappointed. My final thoughts. This movie never really felt like its own movie. It felt like, again, a play-by-play of the first movie, but a lot lackluster of the first one. It did what Gladiator 1 did, but on a smaller, like, I never felt anything. I never felt any emotion. I never felt on the same path as the main character. I never felt driven to get that revenge that they so wanted you to have. I never felt the emotions at all during this movie. And there's a lot of talking, a lot of politic talk. There's the CGI Coliseum fights weren't super for me. And I find myself struggling to find a lot of things that I did like about this movie when I'm not trying to cope. I hate to say it, but I'm disappointed. And my advice for you is, if you want to go see this movie, I'd say go see it. I'd say it's worth seeing in the theater. It's one of those big theatrical releases that you'd be doing yourself a disservice if you don't go to go buy yourself a ticket and watch this movie, to see what you feel like for yourself and get your own opinion on the movie. Maybe I'm just totally off the mark here, but I'd say give it a chance, especially if you're a Gladiator fan. But my advice would be to lower your expectations drastically. When there is a legacy sequel, when there is 20 plus years in between the first one and the second one, the expectations are going to be high. And again, we all know this. That's the issue with Hollywood. I feel like they should have left Gladiator be its own thing, its own beautiful story. But the fact that they added onto it, and this didn't really add much to the first one, or just add much to the series or the sequel or the continuity as a whole. I hate to say it, but I wish they just didn't make it. I wish they left it alone and they let Gladiator 1 be its own thing. But if they did that, I would have never got this ultra cool Gladiator helmet. So there's that. My final ranking of this movie. A 4 out of 10. I'm going to be super honest with you. I feel like that's gracious. I feel like I'm being general. I feel like I'm being generous with a 4 out of 10. It's more siding with a 3 out of 10. But again, I gave it, my first watch, it was definitely a 2 or a 3. I watched it a second time and it's now a 4. I enjoyed it a little bit more the second time because my expectations were a little bit lowered. But that's just my feelings on the movie. And maybe I'm biased. I try not to compare it to the first one. I love the first one so much. But that's my genuine feelings on the movie right now. Did you watch it? What do you think about this movie? Am I hitting the mark on this movie? Am I completely off? Did you enjoy it? I'd love to hear what you thought about the movie. And what did you enjoy about this movie? Maybe I missed something. Maybe I'm... but let me know what you think. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for subscribing. Thank you so much for liking. I appreciate it so much. I love doing these reviews, and I love hearing your guys' thoughts. Thank you so much. Man, bro, in what world would I find myself liking Wicked more than Gladiator 2, man? I'm so freaking disappointed, man. I gave Wicked a 10 out of 10, bro, and this is a 3 out of 10. A 4 out of 10. I was so excited for this fucking movie, bro, and I was let down. I'm pissed, bro. But not all is bad. I got a foam finger.